Well, we're taking a look under the lid, or rather under the motorboard of a Homocord Electro portable. Let's see. We had a request to view the governor assembly on the Electro portable. There it is. This motor kind of looks Swiss. I don't know if it is or not. I don't think it is, but it just has a lot of Swiss influence. I can see that. And this is the governor. The springs are screwed on, and so are the weights by the look of it. Yeah, that's a good innovation. Some, they rivet the weights to the springs, making life difficult. Now this here is a Victor. Typical Victor and many HMVs use this sort of governor body. There's no shaft in that one, but that doesn't matter, you just change it. And I think that if I was missing the weights and the springs on a governor like this, I would try to substitute these, because they're very close. They may be exact. I think these springs anyway would definitely swap in there. They're slightly narrower, but I believe they would work. This governor is, like I said, HMV and Victor from the early days, from the early teens all the way up through the late 20s. They're all pretty much the same, but HMV had a couple that were pot metal that were a little different, and they used a different spring and weight. Because I know with the Swiss governors, those weights look a little different, and they are riveted onto the spring, but these ones are definitely screwed on there. Now you can get brand new springs for the HMVs and the Victors. That's no problem. They're around. The part sellers have them. eBay. They're all over eBay. Now this one was actually serviced by somebody else before I got it. I never got around to servicing it myself, which I'm going to do. Don't know about do it today because it's going to be like 100 degrees and extremely humid, but eventually I am. This is a playing machine as it is, so there's no major rush on that. I'm guessing it was done probably 10-15 years back, so it's getting close to when it's time to do it again. See, it's a 2-spring motor, 2 small springs, just like the Swiss like to do with a lot of their portables. And probably the same exact size spring, and I believe there is also a fiber gear in here. Is that fiber? Yeah, that does look fiber. Just like the Swiss machines. But it doesn't say, made in Switzerland or anything like that. The only thing it says on there is I1/SC. For all I know, that's the last owner's initials. I have no idea. I don't have a lot of information on Homocord portables or Homocords at all. They are fairly rare in the US. You don't see them often. I don't know how common they are in Europe. Now obviously Homocord was producing this as an homage to the HMV 101 or Electrola 101. Anybody who knows the Electrola or HMV 101 will recognize the basic layout right away. There's very little difference in how they design this. I mean, the horn is the same size, it's in the same place. The reproducer, I'll show you in a minute, is roughly the same size as a number 4. The only difference, of course, this uses this style of motor, and it has this cool little pop-up needle dispenser and a bullet brake. And the speed control is much more ornate than anything that Victor or HMV were using on these. Or HMV. Victor did not make the 101. And the same type of tone arm is in the same spots. But it's much nicer appearance though with that. Look at that highly finished French polished motorboard on there, and the record tray. The whole inside of the machine is finished wood. It's really nice. Typical Rexine style cloth on the outside. And here's the reproducer. Remember the other day, the last video, I was trying to remember where I saw that style of reproducer that slides on like that. That was on the Pathé portable. Well, there it is. I knew it was something. That just slides right onto the tone arm, that's all. But I do believe there is, yeah, there is some type of isolator gasket there. Very thin, but it's there. And this, I believe, is all brass. That's painted brass or plated brass. Homocord Electro, very fancy, finished brass under the diaphragm. It's actually slightly larger than a number 4. This is larger than a number 4. Probably one of the larger of the mica diaphragms that I've actually seen. So we're going to be extremely careful with that diaphragms. I don't think I have a replacement for that. But I'll know more once I actually get into it. You know, the gaskets are showing their age, but they're still pliable. So this is still a playable reproducer. It's just showing age. It's old. This is what happens, you know, you rebuilt it and 15, 20 years or whatever go by and it starts to show its age again. Needle bars, obviously, you know, straight off the number 4. Really not a lot of difference there from the number 4. And it's got the triangular opening on the bottom for fiber needles, which I assume must have been available in Germany as well as they were here. And like I said, the tone arm, that's straight up number 4. And there's not a lot of difference on that. And somebody greased it. This is like what I like to do. Make a little bit of more of an air seal on those. But that's what's going on inside the case. Got some blue felt over there. I don't know what that... Oh, okay, that's isolating the horn from the wood, I see. And the horn is metal. What happened over here? We have, oh, okay. That's just a gasket. Look at that. These are nice machines. I wish, too bad they're not more readily available here in the States. I have another Homocord portable, much smaller, a subcompact version of this, which is not nearly as good. This is a good machine. It's a very good machine, especially with that style motor. Plenty of power. You know, it looks nice. It's physically, it's of a size with the 101. You know, and look at even the lid stay is borrowed straight off the 101. I don't know how they got away with it. You know, maybe they just figured they'd make them until the lawyers noticed and then they'd stop. I don't know. Well, maybe the laws are different in Germany when it comes to copyright violations and patent infringement and all of that kind of thing. You know, in some ways it's a better machine, and in some ways it's the same. You know, it'd be nice if the 101s had this cool little dispenser here, which, let me see if I can make it work. It doesn't always, I don't know if the needle's in there. Yeah, it does. See the needle pop up right there? Did it? Yeah. The camera's showing me something different. Actually, no, the needle didn't pop up. But there's supposed to be a needle on there. When there's needles in there, I guess there's a needle on there. It pops up, and then you just turn it away. It says Homocord on it. That's cool. That's cool. And so is this. And also that none of this is riveted in place. It's all screwed on, so you can take parts off, fix them, clean them, whatever needs to be done, and put them back on. I don't like dealing with rivets. I really hate that. You know, it's never fun to be doing that. But that is what the Homocord Electro Portable's motor looks like. There are the bearing cap adjustments, and it does have bearing caps. It has, let's see, is that a friction? Nope. It has a friction pad, not a frictional leather. Not that that matters. If you don't have a pad on there and it's worn, you can always put a leather in there. It'll work just as well. No problems. See if there's any play in it. Yep, about the right amount of play in there. That's good. And the screws are nice and large heads, so you can see them and work with them, which is a little bit easier than what you have on the HMVs and Victors, which are tiny, and they both work, but these ones are a little easier for those of us with thick eyeglasses. And it is a brass-bodied governor in there. Brass body with a steel shaft and steel weights. But I think the weights, if you don't have them, I believe there is enough clearance on there that you can use HMV or Victor weights. I believe the screw-on ones that they have. And on eBay you can buy the entire weight and springs and everything, even the damn screws, but you don't need those. But the weight and the springs you can definitely get together on there, and the screws that hold the weights to the spring. That's what I would try if I had access to nothing else. I mean, I have a lot of Victor parts, so it's natural for me to go directly there whenever I need, you know, governor pieces, try to make it work from a Victor, because that's what I have. And I must have, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 motors lying around with all of them have governors in them. Because this does not look like a standard Swiss governor that I'm more familiar with. It's similar, but not quite the same. Overall, the whole motor looks similar to Swiss, but it's not exactly the same, which makes me think that, like the design being lifted from the 101, I think Homocord lifted the motor design from one of the Swiss portables. That's what I'm thinking. But like I said, I have very little information on Homocord. I don't know when they started, when they stopped, what models they made, how much they cost. You know, I imagine that the start or end of World War II was probably the end of the company. I have no idea if they were absorbed by another or just bombed out of existence. Who knows? I know what happened to Electrola. They went to Russia, but maybe Homocord did too. Because all the Russian portables pretty much look like 101s also, or 102s. And I think that was, that's what it looks like on top. Screws, and notice the thick bushings. Now I'm not sure those were originals, because they seem a little too pliable on there, they're a little too soft. But those spacers have to be there. You cannot mount this motor flush with the motor board or you're going to screw everything up. Because notice how little clearance. I mean, you could have a little more clearance on there simply by loosening the set screws and raising it up a bit, I think. That's the speed control knob there coming through, but you don't want your turntable to be sitting too high, which it would be, because then it hits the record tray when you try to close the lid. So you have to have spacers there. It doesn't matter if you use one spacers like these ones, big thick eraser styles. Actually, I think a regular big pencil eraser style would work on that, but or you can stack them. You can stack them from felt washers or sink washers if you have them, you know, something like that. I would not use metal washers, don't do that. You want a little bit of flexibility here. That's why they're there. They're a vibration dampener. So, and a spacer. So make sure that you, and that's another difference I'm seeing here now that I'm looking at it. The Swiss motors are pillar and plate like this, but they're plate and steel plate on top and bottom. Notice that's a steel plate, a stamped steel plate on the bottom. But on top, that does not look like a stamped steel plate. That is cast. Yeah, that's cast, and it's got the you can see the bushing there for the crank, the winding handle, is cast right in it. So that's cast iron. That is definitely different from the Swiss designs that I'm familiar with. Yeah, the boss work, the speed control arm comes through. You can see that is definitely cast right in with the plate. Shaft in the back there. Bearing cap on the bottom. The main spindle shaft, see, that goes right up through. And that gear right there should not have that much grease on it. You want to try to keep these dry. The whole point of these fiber gears was not like a money-saving thing. They didn't save any money doing this. It was noise reduction. And you know, this is the noisiest part of any Victrola or any phonograph motor, is your governor shaft and your gear mesh right here. This is where most of the noise, or if almost all of it, will come from. So they try to reduce it by using these fiber gears. Problem is that grease can sometimes soften them a little bit and cause them to strip out. You don't want that because they're impossible to replace, I imagine, especially on something like this. So what I will do is I will very carefully clean that grease off and maybe use a little powdered graphite on there at most, or just leave it dry. Just leave it dry. That was not intended to be greased anyway, so. And I'm guessing these bushings were definitely homemade by someone and put in there. And they did a good job, though. They did a good job because the spacing is right. So whoever it was, you know, they knew their business. They made that gear awfully thick. It's almost like a double gear for some reason. I don't know why they'd have two gears like that, not using one of them, but maybe these machines had other purpose. These motors were used in other machines. I don't know. Yeah, I can wind that up and you can see it run a little better than that. Let me get the crank. Let's see. This is attached to the lid on this model. And it's a slotted fit. You don't see that too much on portables. I've seen it on a few larger machines, but well, the 102 obviously, but these older ones usually were screwed in. Let me just crank this up a little awkward because the motorboard is out. Okay, let's see. There you go. You can see it work. All the little gears going around and round. I could actually watch this all day, but don't want to be out here once the sun hits this spot and the temperature starts to rise. I'll be roasting. Very quiet motor. Although with so much background noise going on today, it's a little hard to tell that for sure. You know, it's not like I'm in a sealed room someplace. And that's just about it. Yep. I'm turning the spindle by hand there. That's all. Just get a little bit out of it. There we go. But that's the look at the Homocord Electro Portable. I don't know the exact model number, if it has one. The larger portable. The 101 portable we'll call it. The Electro 101. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Homocord Electro 101. It's almost like they borrowed some of the name, too, from Electrola, doesn't it? Electrola, Electro.